influencers, YouTubers, and etc. Maybe that's why.
Yeah.
I will ask. What is sure that we are facing a changing force of COVID-19? Are we going to change? Are we able to handle the crisis? Are we able to get stronger in the post-pandemic world of publishing? We will discuss these topics with my guests. Let me introduce my first speaker, Mr. Bashar Shabaro. He is, as I said, the Secretary General of Arab Publishers, and he will give us information from the Arabic-speaking world, and maybe in the global scale as well. And he is also the co-founder of Doha Fellowship, which is a very successful program, also started good. And he will maybe give us his view on the get-together events and their effects on the post-pandemic world. Yes, Mr. Shabaro, please.
Thank you very much. أنا راح أتكلم باللغة العربية كوني أمين عام اتحاد الناشرين العرب. بداية أود أن أهنئ زملائنا من أذربيجان كونهم ضيوف الشرف في معرض، كونهم ضيوف الشرف في برنامج الزمالة في إسطنبول. أيضا أود أن أهنئهم على تحرير أرضهم في الفترة الأخيرة وعودة أراضيهم إليهم. وهذه الخطوة حقيقة أنا كناشر عربي أسعدتني وأشعرتني أكثر أن يوم اقتراب تحرير القدس الشريف أيضا يقترب يوما بعد يوم. لنعود إلى برنامج الزمالة. كون مدير إدارة معرض الكتاب في فرانكفورت سيكون معنا، ستكون كلمتي أكثر موجهة أو موضوعها الناشرين والعاملين في حقل الكتاب. سأطرح مجموعة من النقاط من المؤكد زملائي الناشرين هم في أجوائها، لكن أيضا أحاول أن نجمعها معا ونناقشها معا. وأعتقد لا يوجد الآن جواب حقيقي إلى أين نحن ما بعد جائحة الكورونا، حيث الأمور ما زالت متحركة ولم تنتهي بعد. سأقسم موضوعي إلى عدة فقرات. أبدأ ما قبل جائحة الكورونا، طبعا هو مختلف عما بعدها. أولا، حدوث تغييرات في العالم، ليس فقط في قطاع النشر بل في أسلوب حياة الناس بشكل عام. تقبل العمل من المنازل أكثر مما كان عليه الوضع السابق. اعتياد الناس على البعد الاجتماعي وإعطاء الأفضلية للعزلة عن الآخرين. حدوث تغييرات في مواضيع اهتمامات الناس مع حصول الصحة والوقاية على مستويات الاهتمام الأعلى. زيادة الاعتماد على وسائل التواصل الإلكتروني والاجتماعي، سواء لأداء المهام الوظيفية، الواجبات المدرسية والجامعية، الاجتماعات، المؤتمرات إلى آخره. التغييرات في سوق النشر، ملاحظات عامة. لا يوجد قاعدة عامة تشمل كل دول العالم، فسوق الكتاب واجه مستوى مبيعات متدنية في بعض الدول وارتفاعا ملحوظا في دول أخرى، سواء بالنسبة للكتاب الورقي أو الرقمي أو غيره. لوحظت زيادة كبيرة في الاهتمام بالكتاب الرقمي والسمعي، خلال فترات العزلة داخل المدن، ولكونها أنظف وأقل كلفة من الكتاب الورقي. إدراج الكتاب الورقي على منصات التوصيل التي عادة كانت تهتم بالأطعمة وغيرها من المواد الاستهلاكية بسبب إغلاق المكتبات لفترات طويلة، وغيرها من المواقع التقليدية خلال الجائحة. زيادة الطلب على الكتاب الورقي من خلال مواقع البيع الإلكتروني وليس عبر المكتبات التي توصل الطلبيات حتى المنازل، لما فيها من مرونة للقارئ ولاتباعها المعايير الوقائية. التغييرات في فلسفة العمل لدى دور النشر. واصل موظفو دور النشر أعمالهم من منازلهم على غرار غيرهم من العاملين في القطاعات الأخرى، نتيجة لإلغاء معارض تبادل الحقوق. انتقلت الاجتماعات الشخصية التي كانت تجرى على اجتماعات افتراضية، حيث يتم عرض الكتب والتوصل إلى اتفاقيات متبادلة. زيادة التعويل على المنصات الافتراضية استبدالاً للمعارض وبرامج الزمالة، مع اعتماد البعض على الشكل المزدوج الجامع بين اللقاءات الشخصية والافتراضية على السواء. وأكبر نموذج هو البرنامج الذي نحن فيه الآن، وهو بحد نفسه حقيقة هو موقف تحدي أمام هذه الجائحة، أن تقيم إدارة برنامج الزمالة في اسطنبول هذا العرس السنوي في وقته، تحديا للجائحة وضرورة الاستمرار. هذه نقطة مهمة بحد ذاتها. لا يزال وضع المعارض وبرامج الزمالة غير واضح بشكل عام بسبب القيود التي تفرضها كل دولة على حدة بشكل مختلف عن الدول الأخرى، وطبعا إعطاء الأفضلية لصحة المجتمع على عودة الحياة الطبيعية للقطاعات الاقتصادية. خاصة أن موضوع هذه الجائحة متطور وغير ثابت، يعني ننتهي من مرحلة نجد أنفسنا دخلنا مرحلة جديدة بظروف مختلفة، بالتالي إدارات المعارض، إدارات البرامج الثقافية تتغير برامجها مع تبدل هذه الظروف. التحديات لدى القراء ما بعد الجائحة. بكل وضوح برز موضوع المحتوى على حساب الكتاب الورقي خلال السنة المنصرمة، حصول تغييرات واضحة في مستويات القراءة، فزادت في بعض الدول وانخفضت في دول أخرى. توجه الاهتمام لدى القراء نحو الوقاية والصحة والرغبة في الحصول على المعلومات عن الإنترنت وليس عبر الكتب، لسرعة الوصول إليه في تحديث المحتوى بالمقارنة مع الكتاب. وهذا ما حدث سابقا مع الصحف. إذا بتذكروا الصحف كان يصير حدث ما نعرف عنه تاني يوم الصبح لما تطلع الجريدة. مع وجود الانترنت والعالم المختلف صار أي حدث بيصير في أي مكان في العالم نعرفه خلال 5 دقائق، فهذا أثر على قوة وحضور الصحيفة في اليوم الثاني. نفس الشيء يحدث الآن خاصة في الأمور الصحية، هنالك معلومات وأخبار وتطورات تقريبا كل ساعة. هذه المعلومات أفقدت البحث عن هذه المعلومات أصبح أفضل عبر وسائل النت، لأنه أسرع وأدق من المادة الثابتة في الكتاب. التغييرات في نمط القراءة عند الأطفال والناشئة والاعتماد الأكبر على الكتب الرقمية بسبب اعتماد المدارس على التعليم الإلكتروني. كخاتمة ما أريد اختصاره بكلمة: إننا انتقلنا من عصر الكتاب إلى عصر المحتوى الذي يضم الكتاب الورقي والكتاب الرقمي والسمعي والكتاب المختصر والفيلم والمسرح إلى آخره. ونحن أيضا أصبحنا في حالة استعداد لتقبل أي أسلوب آخر يأتي إلينا مع التقدم التكنولوجي. إذا نحن نعيش حالة محتوى قد يصلنا في أي شكل من الأشكال. لم يعد فقط الكتاب هو الشكل الوحيد والأساسي لاستخدامه. أيضا في الختام أنقل لكم تحيات فريق عمل زمالة الدوحة إلى فريق عمل زمالة إسطنبول. شكرا لكم.
Thank you very much, Mr. Beshar, for the speech and for all the information you shared with us. Our second speaker is Mr. Jürgen Boos, is the director of the world's most influential book fair, the Frankfurt Book Fair. He became president and CEO of the Frankfurter Buchmesse in 2005. He will join us online. Thank you, Mr. Boos, for joining us in Istanbul Publishing Fellowship. We are discussing the current issues and the obstacles of the post-pandemic era for publishers. I think book publishing is about people, and the need to get together is essential in decision-making about books and publishing. What do you think about the previous year in terms of international publishing and specifically in terms of Frankfurt Book Fair? How was your experience of your latest edition? And secondly, how do you think the future of publishing and trade fairs will be? What are your plans and your vision? Evet.
Dear friends in Istanbul, dear participants of the Istanbul Fellowship, it's a great honor for me that you invited me to speak to you and actually be also part of this fellowship. It's quite disappointing for me that I won't be able to attend in person. Istanbul is one of my favorite places since we worked on the guest of honor many years ago, Turkey in Frankfurt. I had the chance to visit Istanbul many times and I made many friends in publishing in the book world in Istanbul. But for this year, it's very difficult to leave Germany, but I hope quite a few made it to Istanbul, and I hope you enjoy this meeting. I think it's very important to have these fellowships. Publishing is always very international. It lives of diversity, and I think these fellowship programs are the most important project we have in our world. For us, the last year has been very challenging. And when I say us, I not only mean the Frankfurt Book Fair, but I do mean everybody in publishing, whether it's authors who were not able to speak to their readers, whether it's bookstores who had to close, open again, close again, or whether it's publishers who had to live with a lot of insecurity and instability. But actually, it's been quite an experience to see that the book trade, the publishing world, the world of storytelling is quite resilient. I think most of us made it through this pandemic. And actually, it didn't come as bad as we thought it would come. Frankfurt had to plan the book fair several times. We did a lot of scenario planning. And in the end, we had to cancel our physical fair in Frankfurt last minute. But then we went on with our digital project, the hybrid fair. We had smaller events in the city of Frankfurt. And with the hybrid fair, we were able to reach a lot of people all around the world we haven't reached before. We've been working to reach out to the general audience, but we've also offered some B2B formats. But again, the experience, what we learned through this huge experiment, how important it is to actually meet each other. And so something like the Istanbul Fellowship, we couldn't do without it. And that's also what I'm seeing for the future. We have to meet again. The book trade, the publishing industry, the rights trade lives out of building up trust and having a personal relationship. to understand each other's needs, its wishes, and actually to reach out to get the best for our authors for storytelling. So I'm really looking forward this year actually to host you again in Frankfurt. I'm looking forward to hopefully see you in other places in the world. And again, publishing is resilient, it's important, and we all learned now once more in the past 12 months that we cannot survive without culture, without exchange, without diversity, without understanding each other, without reaching out to each other. So thank you once more for having me, and I wish you all the best for the coming days. Thank you so much.
Well, it's, as we said, extraordinary times all around the world. So my third speaker is Mr. Daniel Messino from Mexico, a Mexican journalist and editor. He has worked in book industry, in national newspapers and specialized magazines, as well as in radio and television. He's currently a literary acquisitions external scout and an external acquisitions editor for HarperCollins Mexico. He reviews and comments books at radio shows and televisions. And I think he will give us some information, not only from Mexico, but also from the whole Latin American region.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. First of all, I would like
Please push
to
the
say
button.
I'm very happy to be here. And 2 years ago, I came here to Istanbul, and it really changed my mind. It opened my little world of thinking that the book industry, especially from the people from Latin America, was influenced what was going on in England, in the United States, and in Spain. And then I came here 2 years ago, and wow. That's why, because I'm a writer, and 2 years ago, I came here to look for books, to do to acquisition, to buy rights, and also to promote my novel. Today, I can say that one Turkish publishing house has bought the rights from my novel, so we're going to have an edition in Turkish. Also, a small boutique publishing house in London is going to do it, an English edition of it. And another thing is that Nairobi bought the right from their country, for that territory, to make a local edition. So as an author and as a writer, this is the possibility of going outside, of knowing and meeting people. So this is very important in these times. And I hope that we can say about other fellowship programs such as Doria. So this is something that I couldn't believe it. And in this scenario, I have divided my speech in three areas. First of all, what was the impact of this pandemic in Latin America, especially in Mexico, in Colombia, and Argentina? Because if you want to understand Latin America, you have to divide it in these three countries, because they have the strong influence on different parts of Latin America. Brazil, I wouldn't talk about it because it has its own peculiarity. Mexico is with one of the most important and influence about book selling, because it influences the The market in Spanish in the United States for Spanish speakers community in the United States. Argentina, it influences Chile and Uruguay, and Colombia, it has influence on Peru and Ecuador. So this is the three greatest regions if you want to understand what's going on in America, okay? Then, generally speaking, we can consider that there been a loss of 20%, 30% of their budgets. I mean, they're went back. It means that there's been a drop in the sales of 30%. Now, it is very important that I want to consider some facts that make us able to understand what's going on in that region. For example, in Colombia, they detect more or less a 25 or 30% dropfall of the sales. However, and I want you to have this in mind, they don't register that bookstores or chains of stores closed. So if you compare with the difference with what's going on in Argentina and in Mexico, that many stores closed, in Colombia, that was not the case. Many, also according to the Chamber of Colombia Book Industry, there are no registration of local bookstores closed. Why? I'm going to discuss it in the future. Next, Argentina, it suffered a very, very and historic fallout because according to the production on the last March, April of 2019, where they produced more or less 6 million books. The same period last year, they do it only 500,000 books. So this was totally dramatic. So it was really something that really put into local reader and the book industry in Argentina in a state of emergency. However, they know how to survive because this is not the first time that they have spent a crisis on this dimension, because they have suffered from a lot of economical crisis. In Mexico, the situation is not also so well. According to the statistics, if we continue developing at the same pace as the national economy, the national books members of the industry, they think that we could recover. It will take us 10 years to recover from the loss that we have experienced. So this is more or less some information about how difficult the situation it is for the continent. Why did it happen? I think there are many reasons, but generally speaking, the three, the most important that I have identified are this one. The first is, of course, as the close of books of many establishments and many and social restrictions, I mean, they forced the closure of bookstores, both local bookstores, which they have a difficult situation, and these big and chain of bookstores, which many branches, they have to close many of their branches. So this is what happened, that the natural way that the book goes to the reader was through the bookstores. So this is the first one. I mean, no places to buy books or to sell books. They close their this part of going and attending it. The economic crisis and unemployment caused consumers to first secure a supply of food and sanitation items before consuming books as a means of entertainment. So first of all, the second consequence, or the second that promotes this drop of 20%, is this: that of course economical and employment situation says, first of all, food, first of all, sanity, first of all, health, and then entertainment. And the last one, the other thing that it really affected, is that instead of books, people were starting to use to consume content in streaming as the main way of going through to spend their free time. So this is the three consequences. No, the first of all, as I told you, feel first assegurate that they have their basic conditions for surviving. Second, it was that the natural source of people buying books was closed, and the last one is the growth of consuming content via streaming. So in with this scenario, what is the future of book fairs, and what is the future of agreements and law fairs? First of all, I will say that one of the greatest changes is that, I don't know if you remember when we have to negotiate the new format and the new popularity of e-books. Right now, it not only it is a must, but for example, a new player appears on the stage, and is the audio format. So last year in Spain, for example, there was a boom of podcasting. More and more people start to listen to podcasts while they were using an internet, and it said that almost 70% of the people who visit the website, they know that there exists a podcast. So, and even said that 4 people out of 10, they are people who listen and consume podcasts. So if in 2020 was the year of this increase in podcasts, it is people expect that 2021 is going to be the year when we are going to go to migrate to this model of business. And for example, right now, some companies that stream online, for example, music online like Spotify, they are buying rights for books exclusively, just to compete against the two big players, which is Storytel and Amazon and Audible. And for example, the greatest difference is that in the past, for example, if you sell a book, it can be distributed and it can be bought in any bookstores. Right now, if the content of the book is, if you are going to sell it to one of these players, it can only be commercialized through, for example, Spotify, or it could only by users of Storytel, etc. For example, in the case of my novel, it was acquired by Spotify exclusively in Spanish. So what I tell you about this one is that this increase of content in Audible means that our agreements, and we want to negotiate with them, we must include and offer also the right for this all the way possible to exploit their contents. For example, not only ebooks, or also take into consideration, for example, the audiobook. Even, for example, some of the biggest publisher houses, they have changed their agreements to include all the possibility of exploitation of the rights. The other thing, also, there was, also the other part, two more things. There was also a huge explosion of people consuming content on website, on Netflix or this streaming. So in that case, as a result of the problems of restriction and many of the new production and series we were going to be launched, they were postponed. So there was a lack of content, and in Argentina, they're talking about the emergency of a new hybrid reader. It is a reader that both enjoys reading books and watching and consuming content broadcasted on streaming. This is something that changes the traditional way, because mostly books, for example, were bought 60%, 70% for women and 30% for men, talking about general interest. With this hybrid reader that is going emerging, is emerging, it changes and is more or less 60-40. So more men are being attracted to become a possible reader. So please, the other thing is that in your agreement in the future include and offer this content that think about the possibility to negotiate the content for some series of these companies such as Netflix and so on, because they are part important. And finally, I want to say two more things. I want to say that the future, as a consequence of this one, we need as a more a stronger relationship with the publisher and agents. Why? Because one of the strategies of this situation where 30% or 40% in the world were a decrease in their sales because of the pandemic, they are more selective on the contents and the books that they are buying. So please, in my opinion, the best thing to do is to have this kind of hybrid business. Why? Because, of course, you can go through a Zooming meeting, but I think that as you mentioned, in the very first edition, the first part of choosing and negotiating books and rights and knowing what they need, what you need, and what we need as a publisher or as an agent is based on face-to-face. Then, this part of Zooming can work, but I think that at least one part or one initial meeting must be done through person to person. And second, please think about when offering from your catalog to international content that this hybrid reader, this hybrid consumer, that is not the traditional ones, it's not someone who really enjoys both sides of the equation. Traditional reading, but also a consumer series, and so on. Thank you so much, and let's have a good fair.
Thank you. Thank you, Daniel. And it's quite interesting to broadcast books, as you said. Maybe it's going to change the men and women percentage of readers. We will see in the future. Well, as you see, the more we talk about it, the more things come up to talk more, but this session is over, and I hope to keep that we can keep our motivation up, and if the publishers are keen on publishing new books, interesting books and good books, this is the only exit I think we can have as publishers. So in the end, we will find ways to reach out our readers, either online ways or old channels, etc. Well, thank you again, Mr. Basharo, Mr. Daniel Messino, and Mr. Jürgen Bus, and to all our audience online and here with us, thank you for joining us.
I would like to thank our distinguished speakers and our moderator. And now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Mr. Münir Üstün, President of YIFED, to present the speakers with their plugs. We would like to thank our speakers for their remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of our session. Lunch break will start in 5 minutes. Thank you for being here. And all our guests and participants are invited to join today's gala dinner and awards ceremony. Don't forget to check the program booklet for that. Thank you.